Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we have Chufeu with us, and we're here to discuss a feature of TI. And so TI likes to go over the data again, to re-examine the data again. This can show up in different forms. And so Antonia Dodge from Personality Hacker, she likes to give this example of when it comes to her TI, she re-examines her relationship with Joel every single day. And so TI will choose to be in a relationship relative to the context of the relationship and what is happening in the relationship, and by looking over the data with fresh new eyes. This can show up in the form of asking yourself, does this relationship still make sense? And it's not because you don't love your partner anymore, and you very much do. It's just that TI likes to rethink information all the time. And so this is an extreme example, and not all TI users relate to this. But I do notice that some TI users do this. And so, yeah, Antonio was like, I rethink the data regarding my relationship with Joel all the time, every day. And Joel's like, every day? And he was caught off guard by that. But it's true. This is a TI phenomenon. It's just a TI compulsion to want clarity with the data. This re-examination doesn't just show up in romantic relationships. This can show up in human relationships in general that a TI user has. When I talk about this, I know initially it can sound harsh. If you actually understand it, it's not as harsh as it sounds. It actually is just the desire for clarity and data integrity every day that the TI user wants. And so perhaps Chufeu will have you expand on this.
Right, yes, I would like to second that it's just an expansion of data re-examination and clarity, and also relative to the context. In the Joel and Antonia example, it's clearly through a romantic lens, but also potentially through a business lens and all that. But not every relationship is like that. So not every relationship that TI users examine and re-examine will be through a romantic lens. It could be through familial, platonic, professional even, or even personal, relative to whatever that means. The re-examining is just to make sure that all the data that is happening in their eyes is data they want, that they choose. And again, it's just the integrity of the relationship. And in a detached form, the TI detaches from the relationship to look at themselves, the other person in the relationship, and the relationship as the third thing, and to see if the thing that is the relationship is what they want, right? No.
I think it's correct. I think it's true. It's like TI, and especially with NI, in Chufeu's case, with being an ISTP, TI is going to re-examine, does this make sense with what they want in the moment? So there'll be some TI users who choose people or want to choose people every day. And it's like, you want to make sure that you are actively choosing that person and that person is actively choosing you, and that the relationship is not stagnant, in that you guys continually re-examine the data. That seems like a high integrity relationship to a TI user.
Exactly. It's re-examining, and also it's the fear of complacency too. It's not just a one and done thing. Every day wants to be a fresh take on the choice, a fresh take on, say, the vows or agreements or whatever it is relative to the relationship. So every day must be a fresh choice. So in a sense, not to get complacent or lazy and make sure that one person is or isn't pulling their weight, or to make sure that one person just isn't dropping the ball or is dropping the ball. TI wants to examine that. And so if someone is dropping the ball, or maybe I am dropping the ball, then right, TI will want to know that and make sure, hey, if I'm dropping the ball, I need to pick up some slack. Or hey, if you're dropping the ball, you need to pick up the slack.
Yeah, exactly. So TI is, as we were talking about, a detached observer. You can look at Eminem for illustration. So Eminem is actually a very emotional guy. So it's clear that TI users have feelings, just as all human beings have feelings. It's just, what do you trust when you make decisions? A TI user is going to trust their TI. And so that means they're going to trust the re-examination of data. And so TI users will look at their emotions in a detached observer way. TI wants to be very precise with information. And so that precision requires you to examine things in context. It requires you to constantly go over information, to update it with new information, and to make sure that it still makes sense in your framework. This is just something natural that TI users do without needing to even try. So it just occurs. It's not like they're doubting the relationship. It's just that it's like a natural cleaning process, a natural subroutine that their brain does.
Right. And sometimes it can come across as doubting the relationship, or sometimes the questions that could be asked to check the data may come across as offensive, blunt, or even attacking of the relationship, which is something that it can be misconstrued as.
Because the other person might be, why are you even re-examining this? Like, the very fact that you're re-examining this is offensive to me, because it means that you might not be committed to this relationship, or that you believe in this. And it's like, no, when the TI user tells you their belief, it's not that they believe in this. They might just be devil's advocating, because they want to make sure the data is still clean, that the data still makes sense. So it's nothing personal. It's just that they have to do it because it's the way that they stay in integrity with themselves. So It doesn't have to do with you or your worth. It just has to do with them unconsciously, compulsively, naturally going over data.
Mm-hmm.
This is just to explain a quirk that a friend of yours might have, or a romantic partner might have. And it might give it a new light, so that you are more compassionate towards this. And it helps you make sense of something that might have been perplexing to you. Do you have any final thoughts, Chufeu?
Is it fair to say that when TI users re-examine the data, that the partner, right, not even romantic, can like take up the opportunity to discuss things? Like, is that a good compromise spot, right? If the TI user doubts a relationship, to maybe also, right, how do I want to say it? Like, extend the olive branch, maybe? Right? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you're trying to say.
But is that relative to the video? Is that too ambitious, or?
I think most people actually don't have the wherewithal to be able to discuss information in the way that the TI user does. So it's kind of like the TI user can almost, they have to have a really resilient partner to be able to do it. So
I see. So, right, another point, worth bringing up then.
I think it's a good point. I think it's a really good point. I think that most people may have the potential to misunderstand the TI user. So I don't always know if it's a good idea to open up the conversation to talk about it. And it's like, it's not a personal attack. It's just the TI user needs to put it through their framework for it to fully settle, for the dust to settle, and for them to feel calm. Just like an ESTJ needs to get things done to feel calm and relaxed, the ISTP, the INTP needs to re-examine the data before they fully feel at peace. Would you say that that's the correct wording, Chufeu, or would you change up the wording a little?
I would say, right, that's like 90% correct. I want to leave the, again, right, that's why I was talking about, leave the opportunity for people to be like, right, if I re-examine the data and like, right, through the relationship, re-examine the data with, say, the person they're talking to, and they do want to bring up a point that, that should be, a thing to discuss too, right? So like if the partner does have information or data that, right, doesn't align with the TI user, that they can bring it up and also, right, hash it out and, right, clarify the data, instead of just being, oh, right, the TI user's just, doubting the relationship again, I'll just let them do their thing. Like, I want to leave room for that too. It's like, hey, right, if maybe for the one out of, 10,000 doubts they do bring up, it's like, actually, right, I actually do talk about that. Like, I want to leave room for that, for people to kind of go on. But
that makes sense. Yeah. So you can always have a conversation or a relationship with someone's TI, and you can talk with it as well too.
Exactly. So, but right, then doesn't it tie back to what you said, right? People need to have the wherewithal and the integrity and the endurance to be able to do that for the one out of the 10,000 times that something is a legit problem and all that.
Exactly, yeah. It's like most of what the TI examines is probably benign, but when it does reach that critical thing that has to be talked about, it is important to find a way to talk about it so that can be resolved and made sense of.
Right, but is that beyond the scope of the video then, to try to introduce that idea for people to watch too, or?
Oh, I think it's actually a great idea. And for people watching this video, feel free to comment down below if your TI user how would you like people to engage with this side of you that re-examines data? Would you like it? Would you not like it? I'd love to hear your experiences. And if you have experienced a TI user re-examining data, how does it feel like to be on the other end? And has this video allowed you to have an additional perspective on that form of behavior? And so thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Chufeu, for coming out and discussing with TI Accuracy your opinion on this topic. And I know that as an ISTP, you wanted to stay on topic for this video a lot too. So I appreciate that.
Of course, yeah.
It's interesting, like when Chufeu thinks that he's going off course, or when Chufeu thinks he's going on a tangent, he's really not. It still feels very related to the topic. Whereas like an ENFP will go on a tangent and not realize that they're going on a tangent. And so it's just kind of funny how different types use the word tangent differently. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Joyce.
All right, cool. And so we'll see you all in the next episode. Take care.